welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. I am Mel. I am an intuitive astrologer. I am a spiritual teacher slash mentor, however you want to put it, and I'm also an intuitive reader. Okay. Today we're going to be looking at Neville Goddard and see some of his words of expertise when it comes to manifesting and when it comes to kind of controlling your energy. I probably looked at like 3 minutes of this and I was like, oh no, I gotta react to this, or I gotta put it in my little vault, and let's see what's going on, y'all. Let's see what he's talking about.
Most people live their entire lives believing themselves.
Oh yeah, and this is posted by Infinite Motivation.
Most people live their entire lives believing themselves to be victims of circumstances, forever reacting to a world they think exists independently of their perception. They say, I am sad because this happened, or I am angry because someone did this to me. But I tell you now, with absolute certainty, that nothing happens to you. It happens through you, and because of the state of consciousness you occupy. The Bible, which is the greatest
So let's say something about this consciousness. Consciousness is what you think, okay? Consciousness is what you agree to, okay? There are different types of consciousness, or mindsets, if you feel what I'm saying. Mindsets or consciousness is what you agree to, what you believe in, okay? What you believe is what you get. You know what I'm saying? You feel what I'm saying? What you put your energy into, that's going to be your reality, okay? And that's going to affect your reality. What you react to is going to affect, your reality, okay? So you got to be on your P's and Q's in order to, block off certain energies. In order to manifest certain things, you have to not react to things that come to disturb your peace or disturb your focus, because you have to be focused and emotionally charged to manifest certain things. Well, all things actually. But yeah, that's the key thing that came up in that little spell right there.
psychological book ever written. Tells us in Proverbs 23:7, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. This is not some poetic expression, but a literal description of the law that governs human experience. You are not what you think you are, but what you think you are.
You are not what you think you are, but what you think you are. So basically, a lot of people that experience anxiety, depression, or just they're stuck in the same cycle, you're thinking about the same things. You're addressing the same things in the same way. So you have to get out of that pattern. You have to recognize what's not working, what's not bringing in more, or what's not expanding your world. You feel what I'm saying? So you definitely have to be like focused, okay? Because if you really, or even being enlightened about the cycle that you're trying to break, or what you want to create, or a new life that you want, you have to figure out what you've been doing that's not bringing in this consciousness or this mindset or this manifestation that you want, okay? The mind is all. Hermetic principle. The mind is all, okay? That's how we manifest. Your mind is a servant, okay? That's what it's supposed to be. And you're supposed to master it. You feel me? And we can only master our minds, master life, and attracting shit, and just elevating spiritually and consciously through getting through your trauma, getting through your own blockages. Once you get through whatever it is inside of you, or what you've been putting inside of you, because some of these food can block manifestations too, because it's energy, okay? I ain't gonna lie, food that's our, flesh, that can block you a lot, okay? Because you don't know how they've handled these animals, and you don't know what the trauma that they've carried type shit. So, and also, our body thrives off of holistic stuff anyway, holistic healing and holistic meals, and because it helps you align with God. It helps you align with higher consciousness, it gives you the light, and it makes you feel light too. You feel what I'm saying?
Your consciousness is a substance from which your world is fashioned. Now consider carefully what I am about to tell you. If consciousness is the only reality, and all things exist because you are conscious of them, then nothing can affect you unless you first accept it in consciousness. This is the true meaning of acting as if nothing affects you. You recognize that you are the operant power, not the world outside of you. When you truly understand this principle, you will no longer be moved by appearances. You will no longer react to conditions, but instead, you will create conditions through the deliberate occupation of states in consciousness. This is true spiritual maturity. Let me share a simple experiment that will demonstrate this truth.
Before he do that, let's talk about you not reacting to things again. This is a form of personal mind control. Okay, this is a form of self discipline. Okay, self love, a form of self empowerment. Because if you can control your thoughts, you can control how you react to situations in your life. You control your energy. You control your world. You control your reality. Okay? If you can't do that, then baby, you're gonna have people, manipulating you. You're gonna have missed opportunities. You're gonna have anxiety. You're gonna have depression, okay? And I also, when I'm talking about anxiety and depression, I know a lot of people might say, they can't control that. Yes, they can. They can. But some people choose not to. And then when they choose not to, and they do the opposite of healing or of addressing why they have anxiety or why they have depression, then it's gonna get deeper. Okay, that means it's gonna expand to the point where they might need somebody to help them with energy healing, or might need medications. Like, you don't really need them, but you know what I mean. Holistic healing. I want to say holistic healing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I take medications here and there, but it's not like something I just live off of. But cause I just took some what I took today, cause my throat was cause somebody was trying to block my motherfucking throat chakra, so I just took some what's it called, Alka-Seltzer. Now that shit help a bitch, you feel me? I had to take that cause I'm like I got videos to do, baby. I got shit to do. You feel me? I'm having fun doing this, so that's how I know I'm aligned, and I'm getting aligned with more and more ways to teach, even if it's real basic. You feel what I'm saying? But let's keep going.
The next time you find yourself in a situation that would normally upset you, pause and remember this principle. Instead of reacting, remind yourself, this has no power to affect me unless I give it power through my consciousness. Then consciously.
This is actively calling your power back. Okay? Because for a second you got off track, but then you had to recognize the energy. You had to understand that you're giving your energy to something else. So as soon as you identify with something that isn't on the path of you manifesting this or being that, or staying in trying to reprogram your mind to be focused on whatever it is that you desire, you gotta call your power back. Like, oh no, hell no, let me get that, cause you almost had me.
Choose the state you wish to occupy, perhaps state of peace or confidence or even joy. At first, this may seem like pretense, like you are merely pretending that the circumstance doesn't bother you. But I assure you, my dear friend, this is not pretense. It is the deliberate exercise of the creative power that is your divine inheritance. For when you choose a state of consciousness that is independent of external conditions, you are not denying reality. You are creating reality. Remember, the world is not causing your experience. Your state of consciousness is causing your experience of the world. When you truly grasp this, you will understand the incredible freedom that comes with acting as if nothing affects you. You become the master of circumstances rather than their slave. Consider for a moment how different your life would be if nothing could disturb your peace of mind, unless you allowed it to. Imagine moving through life with an unshakable inner stability, knowing that you are the creator of your experience, not its victim. This is your birthright. And it is available to you now through the proper use of your imagination. For imagination is the very gateway to the states of consciousness from which your life is projected. As William Blake so beautifully expressed, man is all imagination. When you use your imagination to occupy the state of being unaffected by external conditions, you are not engaging in fantasy, you are exercising the divine creative power that is the core of your being. Now, let me explain how this principle works in practical terms. We know that the outer world is a reflection of inner states. Therefore,
as above, so below. Okay? So basically, consciousness is spiritual energy, is spiritual. Okay? Consciousness is how, like you say, on the inside it reflects to the outside. or whatever the case. Well, your outside reflects your inner being, inner energy, your spirituality, your spiritual essence. Okay, so, or what you believe in type shit. So in order to embody what you want, you have to practically practice this. Okay, practical means like, you putting it into action. You actually doing the work. Okay, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. Yeah, they want to manifest. Yeah, they want shit to come in. Yeah, they want their coins or whatever the fuck, lover or whatever, but they're not actively doing the work. I've been there too. Shit, I want me like a band right now, whatever, but I'm not doing nothing to create that lane for the band to come in, for the money to come in. You feel what I'm saying? So you got to meet that or exceed that. You feel me? So you can bring in what you want to attract. Okay, if I want to be it's something basic that might give you an example. If I want to be a social shit, we can do it like that. If I want to be a social media influencer, but I'm not posting, or I'm not posting enough, or I'm not really putting my all into it, I'm never gonna, get where I want to be being a social media influencer, because I'm not putting in the active work. I'm not being practical about the situation. I know I'll get views if I post, but I'm not posting. So therefore, like I said, y'all done been there. I know. So I know that's a good example, so y'all can kind of see what he's talking about.
To change any condition in your life, you must first change the corresponding state within yourself. But here is where most people make a crucial error. They try to change the inner state while still granting reality and power to the outer condition. They say, I will try to be peaceful despite this terrible situation. Or I will attempt to stay positive even though everything is going wrong. But do you see the contradiction here? In the very acknowledgement that the situation is terrible, or that things are going wrong, they are affirming the power of circumstances to affect them. The secret is to withdraw all power from external conditions and to place that power where it truly belongs in your consciousness. This is what it means to act as if nothing affects you. You are not denying the existence of conditions. You are denying their power to determine your state of being. Let me tell you a story from my own experience that illustrates this principle. Many years ago, I found myself in what appeared to be dire financial circumstances. Bills were mounting, opportunities seemed scarce, and all the evidence of my senses told me that I was headed for disaster. The world would say I had every reason to be anxious, fearful, and reactive. But instead of accepting that state, I chose to occupy an entirely different state in consciousness. I began to act as if I were already financially secure.
In other words, he was able to control his mind. He was able to control his reaction. Okay, let's like he's saying, like, okay, I got all this going on, but I'm gonna stay focused and I'm gonna think and be better and act better in a sense that's gonna help me kind of stay on the lane to doing better. You feel what I'm saying? Or not getting swayed by distractions. These are all tests. If you really want to manifest something, if you really want something to come from your life or whatever the case may be, it's a test. Everything is a test. We always got a choice. So if we keep constantly choosing to not improve or not, stay focused on certain situations or the game plan or trusting the process, we never gonna get anywhere. We're just gonna be just a dog chasing the tail. Okay.
I did not do this through outer actions like spending money I didn't have. Rather, I did it by occupying the state of financial security in my imagination. Each night before sleep, I would construct a scene that implied my financial problems were solved. I would hear friends congratulating me on my good fortune. I would feel the relief and confidence that comes with abundance. Most importantly, I felt the natural feeling of being unaffected by financial concerns. I persisted in this state, refusing to be moved by appearances that contradicted it. And within a short time, events began to rearrange themselves to conform to this new state of consciousness. Opportunities appeared that I could not have planned or predicted. Money came from unexpected sources. The entire situation transformed not because I fought against external conditions, but because I changed the state from which I was operating. This is the pattern of all genuine transformation. You do not overcome conditions, you transcend them by occupying a state that is unaffected by them. And from that state, conditions themselves are transformed to reflect your new consciousness. Now, some of you might be thinking, but surely there are circumstances so severe that no one could remain unaffected by them. To this, I would say that you are still granting power to conditions rather than to consciousness.
Facts. So basically when he was saying transcend the situation, basically that means level up. Basically that means, you acknowledge this, but you don't agree to this. You're building another agreement. Okay, so the more that you do this with things that come into your reality or in your mind or what happened on the external, and you transcend that, baby, you will be a powerful manifester. Do you hear me? And when he speaks on imagination, that's why like when you see like people talk about satanic rituals or something like that, they like to use a pure soul, like a child. You feel what I'm saying? 'Cause they have pure energy. Okay, they're not most of them are not tainted, if that makes, from this world. So that pure energy that just came from God. You feel what I'm saying? Came from source. So they got source energy pure in their bodies. Okay. And when he goes back and talks about imagination. Remember when you were a child and you could imagine anything? You feel what I'm saying? It was like free. You didn't have nothing blocking it. You know what I'm saying? You having fun in your imagination, playing with your toys, going outside, playing with your people. You feel what I'm saying? You felt free. You didn't have no restraints. The only restraints you had was your mom tell you go in the house, eat, take a bath, whatever, woo. You feel me? That's little things because you're a child. But the next day you can wake up and go to school, go to recess, have fun, come back home, play your game, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But you still had time to like be a kid and be free and not have like the weight of the world on you. So if you can attach yourself to your imagination or constantly use your imagination every day, every second of the day, baby, you'll manifest a lot of shit. Whatever you want.
Remember what Paul told us in Romans 12:2. Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. The renewing of your mind is not about positive thinking or affirmations. It is about the radical recognition that consciousness precedes and determines experience. When you truly know this not as an intellectual concept, but as a living reality, you cannot be affected by anything except that which you accept in consciousness. Consider the great spiritual teachers throughout history. Did they not demonstrate this very principle? They moved through the most challenging circumstances with an inner peace and power that seemed miraculous to those around them. But they were not performing miracles. They were simply applying the law that governs all experience. They knew themselves to be consciousness, not the effects of consciousness. My dear friends, this principle of acting as if nothing affects you is not about developing a thick skin or becoming emotionally numb. Quite the contrary, it is about experiencing the full richness of life from a position of creative power rather than reactive vulnerability. When you no longer feel threatened or controlled by circumstances, you are free to respond to life with wisdom, compassion, and authentic self-expression. Your actions come from choice rather than compulsion. Your emotions become instruments of experience rather than reactions to experience.
You heard what he said, right? Choice. Just saying.
Now, let us explore how to apply this principle in your daily life. The practice begins with vigilance, becoming aware of those moments when you are granting power to something outside yourself. Whenever you find yourself saying or thinking that something makes you feel a certain way, pause and correct yourself. Nothing can make you feel anything. Your feeling is a state of consciousness that you have accepted, either deliberately or by default. When you catch yourself reacting to a person or situation, remind yourself, this has no power to affect me. I am consciousness, choosing the state I will occupy. Then deliberately choose the state that serves your highest expression. If someone speaks harshly to you, instead of automatically entering a state of hurt or anger, choose to occupy a state of compassion or understanding, not as a response to their behavior, but as your free expression of who you choose to be.
And I'm not gonna lie, this shit is hard, y'all. It's just not that easy, especially when you've been programmed to react certain ways or to think certain ways. So this is just something that you have to literally practically do each day. And they say like if you're doing something for 2 weeks, it becomes a habit. So try to do it for 14 days, or I say 14 to 24 days, and see how your world changed, see how your mind changed, see how lighter you feel when you just choose grace and compassion, like you say, understanding, or you just choose to, do better, be better, and, be in control of your own world, your own identity type thing. Because we have so much shit going on right here in the world. Like, people don't know themselves. They listen to all these dating coaches, and these dating coaches be divorced, or they be they do be doing shit for clout. So it's like you really have to get tapped into the energies to understand that you create your own blessings, you create your own manifestations. And when I say blessings, yeah, God blesses us, but I'm saying, like, I'm gonna say manifestations. I'll use manifestations, because baby, be for real, we got the power of source, so we need to learn how to use it. We need to tap into that. I feel like this shit is crooked a little bit. Are y'all crooked? Y'all feel like I crooked? Alright, that's a little better. Alright, let's get back.
If you are facing financial challenges, instead of occupying a state of lack and anxiety, choose to occupy a state of abundance and security, not as a denial of appearances, but as a recognition that appearances have no power except that which you give them through your consciousness.
And when he said occupy, that means give energy to. Just in case somebody like, what do you mean occupy? That means giving energy to it, reacting to it.
This practice requires persistence and discipline.
There you go.
For we have been conditioned since birth to believe that we are affected by things outside ourselves.
All right.
Every advertisement, every news story, every casual conversation reinforces the illusion that we are at the mercy of circumstances. Breaking free from this cultural hypnosis requires constant vigilance and the courage to stand firm in your true identity.
Cultural hypnosis. What is hypnosis linked to? The mind. They got everybody under mind control. Okay, and if you are under mind control, or your parents are under mind control, they're gonna put that shit down. They're gonna pass that shit down to you. If they're not conscious, they're not aware, they're not awakened, they're not woke. You feel what I'm saying? So that's why it's such a threat to society when somebody can think for themselves. Somebody can access higher realms. Somebody can tap in with source, or tap in with their ancestors, or tap in with their passed on loved ones, or whomever, angels, even demons, okay? Because not all demons are bad, okay? Be for real. Let's be for real, because we got light and we got dark. Do your own research on that. And then again, I might do it for you so I can show you. You feel me? Because you got demons that can protect you. You feel me? Like, you got to be a bad motherfucker. You got a motherfucking demon protecting you. You feel me? Come on, be for real. Because some of y'all have higher beings that they locked in with these spirits and these demons and whoever, because you're going to be protected regardless. But you got to tap into that yourself, okay? Or you have to understand that yourself. So the more that you gain more knowledge about consciousness, about things beyond earth, you will see your life shift and change for the better. Because thing is, like, they try to keep this shit hidden, okay? Occult means hidden information, hidden knowledge, hidden. Not everybody gonna get it. Not everybody gonna understand it. Not everybody gonna accept it. But if you are, have been granted, that energy or that understanding of the occult, or of just spirituality itself, baby, you tapped in. You can do what you please, because you came down here for an experience. You make your experience how you want to. You create it how you want to, and you do
consciousness. But I promise you, my dear friends, that as you persist in this practice, it will become more natural. There will come a moment, perhaps, when you least expect it, when you will know beyond all doubt that nothing affects you except
How old is this girl? This girl. Well, this girl is 46 and my body can do things today I couldn't even dream of as a child.
That which you accept in consciousness. And in that moment, you will experience a freedom that few in this world have known. Let me now address another aspect of this principle that is often misunderstood. Acting as if nothing affects you does not mean becoming passive or fatalistic. It does not mean accepting undesirable conditions without seeking to change them. Rather, it means recognizing that the only effective way to change conditions is by changing the state of consciousness from which they emerge. When you act from the state of being affected by conditions, your actions or reactions, they come from the same level of consciousness that created the conditions in the first place. Such actions may temporarily modify appearances, but they cannot transform the fundamental pattern from which those appearances arise.
Pattern.
But when you act from the state of being unaffected by conditions, knowing yourself to be the operant power, rather than the recipient of effects, your actions have a creative quality. They come from a higher dimension of consciousness and therefore have the power to transform patterns at their root.
All right.
This is why the great masters have always...
Their root, their origins, where they came from, what they were raised from. So transcending what their family believes or their family history, or or even like people people back in the day that knew these things, but down the line it was lost. That's why ancestral veneration is important. That's why you tapping in with yourself is important, because either way it go, your ancestors run through your body. You got the DNA, you have the awakened knowledge. And I think I probably do a video on that, cause I think is it C. Freeman L? No, it was probably Richard King that talked about that, if I'm not mistaken. I have to go back and look, but we'll definitely tap into that one too.
Always taught that true change comes from within, not because external action is unnecessary, but because effective external action must proceed from a transformed inner state. As Neville, I have always emphasized that a change of feeling is a change of destiny.
All right.
Let us now consider how this principle applies to your relationships with others. Many relationship difficulties arise from the belief that others have the power to affect your emotional state. You feel hurt because of what someone said, or anxious because of how someone acted, or rejected because of someone's choices. But when you live from the understanding that nothing affects you unless you accept it in consciousness, your relationships are transformed.
All right.
You no longer hold others responsible for your emotional states.
That's a recipe for disaster anyway. When you holding other people accountable for your feelings, what you accepted, what you allowed. Like, that's a recipe for disaster. And a lot, like I say, if you don't have emotional intelligence or any mind control of your own, you're always gonna be, either in the same cycle, or it's gonna take you longer to understand people and certain things.
Longer demand that they behave in certain ways so that you can feel secure, valued, or loved. Instead, you recognize that your experience of others is determined by the state of consciousness you occupy. If you are in a state of self-worth, nothing another person does can make you feel worthless. If you are in a state of love, nothing another person does can make you feel unloved. This recognition releases others from the impossible burden of managing your emotional state. It frees them to be themselves.
So, quick spell. My freaking thing stopped recording. Okay, my camera stopped recording when I was reacting. So this next portion, I'm just gonna put it in as this just audio. Okay, so if you want to stay tuned for that, thank you. I'm gonna just put it in as audio. Probably just put a little image up here, something like that. Okay, sorry, I had to make sure my shit was still recording.
Just as it frees you to be yourself. And paradoxically, when relationships are based on this freedom, rather than on emotional dependency, they become deeper, more authentic, and more satisfying. Now, some may wonder if acting as if nothing affects you might lead to a cold, detached approach to life and relationships. But this concern arises from a misunderstanding of the principle. Remember that I am not suggesting that you deny your emotions or suppress your natural responses to life. Rather, I am inviting you to recognize the true source of those emotions and responses. When you know that your feelings come from the state of consciousness you occupy,
All right.
rather than from external triggers, you can experience those feelings more fully and authentically. You can embrace joy without fearing that it depends on fragile circumstances. You can experience love without the anxiety that it might be withdrawn. You can feel peace even amid external turbulence. In this way, acting as if nothing affects you leads not to emotional detachment, but to emotional freedom, the freedom to experience the full spectrum of human feeling without being enslaved by it. This is what the mystics have called being in the world, but not of the world. You participate fully in life's experiences, while knowing yourself to be the conscious creator of those experiences.
All right.
Let us now explore another dimension of this principle, its application to the challenges and apparent tragedies of human.
Once you try a comfort hoodie, you can't go back to regular hoodies. They're slightly weighted, super oversized. It's that perfect fit that makes you feel like you're wrapped.
Experience. For it is in the face of life's greatest difficulties that the truth of this teaching is most profoundly tested and demonstrated. When you face serious illness or the loss of a loved one, or any of the myriad sufferings that seem inherent to human existence, the idea that nothing affects you may initially seem not just challenging but impossible or even offensive. How can one remain unaffected by such profound experiences? But here again, we must understand what it truly means to be unaffected. It does not mean that you do not experience the full depth of human emotion, the grief, the fear, the anger that naturally arise. It does not mean that you deny the reality of physical pain or emotional anguish. Rather, it means that even in the midst of these experiences, you remember your true identity as consciousness. You recognize that while the human personality is indeed affected by these events, your self, your I am remains untouched, like the depths of the ocean that depth still while storms rage on the surface.
So basically, what he's saying is like when you are faced with a difficult situation or you're faced with a choice that can deter you from what you're trying to do or deter you from elevating in life or becoming richer, becoming a wife or a husband or a property owner or anything that is like an obstacle. When you come to an obstacle that's challenging you to think certain ways or challenging you to overcome it, you have to stop, don't react. You have to stop, think about it for a second. Like, what is, okay, bet. I forgot I'm not really a human. I'm consciousness. I'm part of God. So what will God do? What would Jesus do? Okay. Yeah, we just gonna act like this ain't gonna bother us. And we gonna keep pushing forward. I'm not attached to this. Honestly, I'm not attached to anything. Okay, I'm just creating it. I'm just here. I'm just living here. You feel me? I'm connected to God. I'm connected to source. You feel me? I'm able to manifest what I want. What you doing is not about to stop nothing. You feel me? So when you get these triggers or these obstacles, stop for a second. I know it's gonna take time. I know it takes time to really like embody this, but you can do it. You can do it. You can reprogram your mind. You can reprogram your subconscious mind to be bulletproof. You feel me? When it comes to this, when it comes to certain things, okay? When it comes to anything.
From this recognition comes a quality of presence that transforms how you experience life's challenges. Instead of being overwhelmed by circumstances identified completely with your reactions to them, you maintain an inner center of gravity, a witnessing presence that experiences everything but is itself unchanged by anything. This is not a philosophical abstraction, but a practical reality that can be lived. I have seen individuals facing the most dire circumstances, terminal illness, imprisonment, the loss of everything the world values, who nonetheless radiate a quality of peace and even joy that seems miraculous to those around them. They have not escaped suffering, but they have transcended it by knowing themselves to be more than their experiences.
Okay.
This transcendence is available to each of you, not as some distant spiritual attainment, but as your birthright, the natural expression of your true identity.
So basically he's talking about detachment. being detached from a situation. You know, not agreeing to this situation, but observing it from you. That's external, and to it you are external. Okay, so that's energy, or this situation is trying to manipulate you into believing something. It's hypnosis. Okay, it's trying to manipulate your mind in some type of way, or manipulate your emotional state. And emotions are linked to what? Manifesting. Okay, so it's just how you're in the game, you're in the matrix, so learn how to play it.
When you act as if nothing affects you, you are not adopting a psychological technique. You are claiming the truth of who you are. Now let us address a question that naturally arises when contemplating this principle. If I am to act as if nothing affects me, does this mean I should ignore problems or avoid taking practical action to improve conditions? This is a crucial distinction to understand. Acting as if nothing affects you does not mean ignoring the practical demands of life or refusing to address situations that require attention. It does not mean that if you are ill, you don't seek medical treatment. Or if you have financial difficulties, you don't take steps to increase your income or manage your resources.
Right.
The key lies in the consciousness from which these practical actions proceed. If you act from a consciousness of being victimized by circumstances, taking action out of fear, desperation, or a sense of being at the mercy of conditions, your actions will at best bring temporary relief. They cannot transform the pattern that created the conditions. But if you act from a consciousness of creative power, taking action from a state of inner security, confidence, and the knowledge that you are the essence powering your life, those same actions are imbued with a transformative quality. They address not just the symptoms, but the root cause of conditions. This is why two people can take identical outer actions with entirely different results. One person applies for a job from a state of anxiety and need, seeing the job as a rescue from their dire circumstances. Another applies for the same job from a state of confidence and value, seeing the job as an opportunity to express their gifts. Though the actions are identical, the consciousness behind them is vastly different. And so are the results they produce. When you truly understand that nothing affects you unless you accept it in
$97 premium, $20 were my fees, $118. Now I covered
consciousness. You take action not as a reaction to conditions, but as an expression of the state you have chosen to occupy. This shift.
So basically, this is this explains why you see poor people and rich people. Okay, poor mindset, rich mindset. That does not mean a rich person is a good person. That does not mean a poor person is a bad person, or vice, or you know what I'm saying, whatever. But that is the ultimate difference between a poor and rich person. And you can put that as in like spiritually, and you can put it as a spiritually, like one that doesn't, understand, and one that does. You can switch it how you want to switch it. Like a pro athlete, like, okay, let's compare Dwayne Wade to Kobe Bryant. Okay, Dwayne had this type of mindset, Kobe had this one, and he put practical energy and mindset. He attached his mindset to not being distracted by things that came up against him. Okay, so you see, this not equal. Kobe is the GOAT. You feel what I'm saying? Not saying Dwayne Wade was a bad player, because he used to be my favorite back in the day. I used to not even like Kobe, but I still didn't watch Kobe. But I watched documentaries, heard his interviews, and seen how his mindset was. Like, he was determined. He was disciplined. Okay? This is why you can't compare him to Dwayne Wade or Steve Nash, or, what that boy name is. He used to do the Superman, Dwight Howard. Like, shit like that. You can't compare. That's not a comparison. That's not a comparison. It does not even equal. You feel me? Hell, you can't even compare Shaq and Kobe. Because Kobe is the fucking GOAT. Shaq did good, don't get me wrong, but Kobe exceeded. You feel me? That's because of a mindset. That's because of this shift he's about to continue talking about.
Shift from reactive to creative action is subtle but profound in its consequences. My dear friends, as we deepen our exploration of this principle, I want to address what is perhaps the most challenging aspect of living as if nothing affects you, the persistence of the illusion that you are at the mercy of circumstances. For no matter how clearly you understand this teaching intellectually, your senses will continue to bombard you with evidence that seems to contradict it. You will still experience pain when you touch a hot surface. You will still feel hunger when you haven't eaten. You will still react emotionally to the words and actions of those around you. These automatic responses of the human organism will not cease simply because you have grasped the spiritual principle. This is where faith enters, not blind belief in a dogma, but the willingness to trust a deeper truth, even when appearances contradict it. The Bible defines faith as the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is the capacity to occupy a state in consciousness, even when your senses provide no evidence to support it. When you act as if nothing affects you, you are exercising this faith. You are choosing to identify with your essential self, pure consciousness, rather than with the body and personality that are indeed affected by circumstances. This choice is made not once, but moment by moment, in the face of an endless stream of sensory evidence suggesting that you are, in fact, at the mercy of the world around you.
That's basically what I was just saying. Every moment of the day, you're faced with a choice. Is this choice going to elevate you, or are you going to stay in the same pattern? Okay, and it's like I said, every choice that you make today, think about it. Oh, is this going to help me get better? Is this going to be a good decision so I don't have to run into certain obstacles? Or if I don't do this, I know I'm going to get some pushback from it. You feel what I'm saying? So it's like everything is a choice. Everything. And I know it sounds daunting because it's like, damn, that's a task. Like, I had to think about everything I do. Hell yeah. If you want to get control over yourself, you feel what I'm saying? And when he was saying, I think he said something about the body. I ain't gonna back it up because we already like 42 minutes in. But he was, what was it? Oh, wait, where the mind goes, the body follows. Okay, just know that where the mind goes, the body follows. Okay, this is the avatar. Okay, this is the avatar. This here is the servant. Okay.
This is the real meaning of spiritual practice, not rituals or techniques, but the constant remembrance of who you truly are, even when everything around you seems to deny it. It is the practice of returning again and again to the truth of your being when the appearances of light pull you toward identification with that which is not you. In this practice, you will sometimes fail. There will be moments when you forget your true identity and become completely identified with your reactions to circumstances. This is not a failure of the principle, but a natural part of the human journey. Each time you catch yourself in such a moment, it is an opportunity to choose again,
All right.
to remember the truth and to return to it.
Mindfulness.
Over time, as you persist in this practice, something remarkable begins to happen. The intervals between forgetting and remembering grow shorter. The state of knowing yourself as consciousness becomes more stable. You begin to live more consistently from the recognition that nothing affects the essential you. And as this recognition deepens, a profound transformation occurs. The very circumstances that once seemed to control you begin to reflect the freedom you have claimed in consciousness. Relationships that were once characterized by conflict and dependency become expansive and nourishing.
All right.
Work that was once a burden becomes an expression of your gifts. Challenges that once overwhelmed you become opportunities for growth and creativity.
Basically, this is it's giving me the mindset, giving me the energy of love. Because if you are doing what you want to do, it's like everything else is going to fall in line. So you love yourself. This is self-love because you're choosing not to put yourself through turmoil. Okay, you're choosing not to be a victim. You're choosing to be the creator of your reality. Okay, you're not neglecting yourself. You're not neglecting your thoughts. You're not wandering around aimlessly. When you have mind control like this, when you have a mentality like this, baby, listen. You're going to attract. You're just pure and you're attracting. Okay, because if you're thinking it, you're going to get it. Okay, if you're giving it energy, you're going to get it back. Okay, reciprocity. Okay, I think that's the name. Is it the law of reciprocity? I got my laws. Here you go. Ooh. I'm not saying, and this also doesn't mean that you're not going to go through struggles, okay? So just know that. Just know that. I think it's called the law of reciprocity. Yeah, something like that. Or it's just fucking reciprocity.
This transformation is not magical but lawful. It occurs because the outer world must reflect the state of consciousness you consistently occupy. When that state is one of knowing yourself to be unaffected by circumstances, to be the creator, rather than the creation, your entire life reorganizes itself to express this truth. My dear wonderful friends, as we draw near to the conclusion of our discussion, I want to leave you with a practical approach to implementing this principle in your daily life. For while the truth that nothing affects you is eternal and unchanging, the application of this truth is progressive and practical. Begin by identifying one area of your life where you feel particularly vulnerable to external conditions. Perhaps it is a relationship where you are easily hurt by another's words or actions. Perhaps it is your work where criticism or setbacks quickly deflate your confidence. Perhaps it is your financial situation where unexpected expenses or income fluctuations trigger anxiety. Once you have identified this area, commit to a period, even just one day, of acting as if nothing in this area can affect your inner state. This does not mean ignoring practical issues or suppressing your natural responses. It means consciously choosing the state you will occupy regardless of external conditions. If it is a relationship, you might choose to occupy a state of self-worth and inner security, regardless of what the other person says or does. If it is work, you might choose to occupy a state of confidence in your abilities, regardless of external feedback. If it is finances, you might choose to occupy a state of abundance and trust regardless of the numbers in your account. Throughout the day, be vigilant for those moments when you begin to react to conditions. Each time you catch yourself slipping into reactivity, gently bring yourself back to the state you have chosen. Remind yourself, this appears to be affecting me, but in truth, nothing can affect me unless I accept it in consciousness. I choose to know myself as consciousness, creating rather than reacting.
If you haven't read the book, dog, what's the name of that book? The law, something about the 4 agreements. If you have not looked at the 4 agreements, or read it, or know anything of it, seen something on YouTube about it, baby, you got to do that. Okay, you got to do that.
As you practice this in one area of your life, you will begin to see subtle shifts, not only in your inner experience, but in the external conditions themselves. These shifts may be small at first, but they are the beginning of a fundamental transformation. As you gain confidence in the principle, expand your practice to include other areas of your life. Remember that you are not trying to control the world or force it to conform to your desires.
Thanks.
You are simply aligning yourself with the law that governs all experience. Consciousness is called.
My mantra is that every next level demands a different you, and Purdue Global is giving me an opportunity.
And what we call the world is effect. When you know yourself as consciousness, as I am, you naturally cease to be affected by effects. This is the ultimate freedom, the promise at the heart of all genuine spiritual teaching. It is not freedom from circumstances, but freedom from bondage to circumstances. It is the recognition that no matter what happens in the world of effects, your essential self remains untouched, like the sun that continues to shine no matter how thick the clouds that temporarily obscure it.
All right.
My dear friends, I have shared with you tonight a principle that, when fully embraced, will transform your experience of life. I have explained that nothing affects you unless you accept it in consciousness, and that by acting from this understanding, you move from being a victim of circumstances to being the conscious creator of your experience. I have discussed the practical application of this principle in daily life, in relationships, and in the face of life's greatest challenges. I have emphasized that this is not a denial of human experience, but a transcendence of identification with that experience. And I have offered a simple practice to begin implementing this principle in your own life. Now, as I prepare to conclude, I want to remind you that the truth I have shared is not my truth or Neville's truth. It is the eternal truth of your own being.
All right.
I have not given you anything you did not already possess. I have simply pointed to what has always been yours, but which you may have forgotten in the dream of separation and limitation. The state of being unaffected by circumstances is not something you must achieve through arduous spiritual practice. It is what you are when you remember your true identity. It is your birthright as consciousness in human form. All that is required is the willingness to claim this birthright moment by moment, regardless of appearances. As you leave here tonight and return to your daily life, I encourage you to carry this principle with you not as a concept, but as a living practice. Each time you find yourself reacting to circumstances as if they have power over you, remember who you truly are. Remember that you are not helpless fragment in a vast impersonal universe, but consciousness itself, taking on human experience for the purpose of creative expression. In that remembrance lies the freedom you have always sought, not freedom from the human journey with all its joys and sorrows, but freedom from the illusion that you are defined or limited by that journey. This is the promise and the invitation of tonight's principle. Learn to act as if nothing affects you and discover the boundless creative power that is your true nature. Thank you, my dear friends, and remember, imagination creates reality. When you imagine yourself as unaffected by circumstances, living from the creative power of pure consciousness, you are not engaging in fantasy, but in the highest act of creation. For what you consistently imagine yourself to be, you will become. Go now in the knowledge of your true identity and watch as your life transforms to reflect the freedom you have claimed in consciousness. For nothing affects you unless you grant it power, and in withdrawing that power from the world of effects and placing it where it truly belongs in your own consciousness, you fulfill the purpose for which you came into being, to create and to express the infinite potential that is God in you.
Hey, listen, told you, we part of source. If you don't believe this concept, try it. Just try it. Okay? If you don't believe this concept, try it. You're going to see a shift in your life. You're going to see a shift in your world. Okay? Because how you react is what is what you block, what you get. You know what I'm saying? It takes your power away. It takes your focus away. If you're focused, okay? If you're focused, you're in tune, you're vibing high, you aligned, you're going to get exactly what you want. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it takes a little longer, okay? So accept this reality, accept this concept, and just apply it. That's all I ask. If you know what I'm saying, if you really want to get out of depression, want to get out of financial bind, you want to, attract the lover that you want, or whatever the case may be. This is pure law of attraction. This is pure control over your actions, your reaction, and your mindset. Okay, so this is about you forming a better mindset. This is about you attaching yourself to another mindset that is beneficial to who you are energetically, okay, spiritually, consciously. Okay, I thank you for sitting with me and listening to Mr. Neville Goddard about law of attraction, okay, and how to master your mind. I will see y'all in the next video. I love y'all. Bye.